G'day and welcome back to another episode of the Upside Fantasy Sports podcast, focused this time around on SuperCoach and a little bit of NRL fantasy matchup previews for the week ahead, which is round 21. If you didn't catch the TLT potty last night, I did touch on some of the criticality around the last 2 weeks, and when you're leading, you want to be holding waivers as best you can, and if you're chasing, you need to send it. Absolutely send it. So roughly 2 weeks left for most leagues from what I can see in the community. It's just, best time of year as, it's not the best time of year, but it's definitely up there in terms of the intensity where either the fruits of our labor come to reward us or, we get really bad luck. So, it can go both ways. Overall, though, I'm keen, and just a tip for people, what I do when the depression or the anxiety hits is I focus my energy onto elsewhere in the league, either helping people that can beat my opponents, for example, or just watching those matchups that that benefit me. So for example, if I'm tight with someone and I'm going to lose, I go and root for the team versing the person I also need to lose, that sort of thing. That's how I offset it, because as we all know, when kickoff comes on Thursday or Friday nights, the rest is sort of in the hands of the gods, as we like to say, the SuperCoach gods. So but this week there's some interesting matchups. There's a few waiver decisions people need to make. I've had to make some myself, so I'm keen to explore that and get into it. I'll do my best to, bring up anyone I think's worth mentioning sort of off memory, and I've got the more detailed analysis on my right here I can look at to try and help me out. Just kick off if you missed it last night or on Twitter. Some of these matchup predictions from last weekend were really critical. Like, you look at people would have had a sit-start decision for Maju. If they played him off the matchup, they got rewarded. Sean Blaw was the same. Tedesco, who a lot of us captained, shat the bed, and we probably should have seen that as a potential indicator where he had a neutral matchup and he delivered a bad score. Hughes would have been a captaincy or a VC option. We would have seen that and could have avoided that if we paid attention to the matchup data. Pappenhausen, similar. Someone like Bo Fermor had an elite matchup and delivered a really great outcome. Ezra Mam, less relevant to Classic, but more relevant to Draft, had a gun matchup, and, he would be in a couple of people's sit-start decisions. They might have picked up a Max Plath or someone else each week and go, when do I play Ezra Mam over Max Plath, for example? This would have been a time to back the matchup, and you would have got the outcome there. I think he had, 80 plus, which is really good. Cleary had an elite matchup. I didn't trust it just because of his health, and then he converted on the matchup, which is awesome. Tommy had a good one and delivered a crazy outcome, going 140 plus, whatever it was. So just brilliant there. And then Ponga was another one, bad predicted outcome, and he delivered a poor result there. Sadly for Ponga. So just a bit of an insight to how these can convey pretty accurately. There's obviously a lot of misses there, and there's other wins I haven't labeled, but these were some of the really interesting ones to me. I will move on into the matchups. It's going to be a long one. Warriors v Tigers. Let's get into the Warriors side of things. The right winger has a gun matchup. That's DWZ. The right half, an elite matchup. The left center, an elite matchup. The right 2RF, an elite matchup. The hooker, Wade Egan, an elite matchup. So he's a start here. Left half, elite matchup, which is Tamare, I believe. Or has Tamare been slotting in on the right? Actually, Tamare's been slotting in the right, so that's fine. Both are good to go, though. Left 2RF, tough matchup. The lock, a poor matchup. And front row is good matchup. So you can see in the bottom 3 bad matchups that I do here, there's already a good matchup popping up for the front rowers. So it just goes to show the Warriors are a go, all systems go. They have the advantage in the discrepancy, and they're dominant through the middle. The Tigers are also dominant in the middle. It's closer than you'd think on discrepancy, I think, because the Warriors are pretty leaky and haven't been scoring as many SuperCoach points across the board as they were earlier in the year. For the Tigers, gun matchup for the left 2RF, Samuel Afinu. I'm probably not going to play him, but if I was smart, I would play him based off this matchup, but I don't know about him at the moment. He's always half a play away from an upside attacking moment, whether it's a line break assist, so maybe I just need to back that in. I just don't know how the Tigers are going to go. That's all. Right half has an elite matchup. Front row is great matchups. Left half, great matchup, which is Lockie Galvin. And when you look at Lockie Galvin and Samuel Afinu on the left having those good matchups, great and gun respectively, it does make you think there's potential there where Lockie Galvin gets on the outside of his defender, creates something for Finu. That stack of aligning matchups is always interesting to me because you can sort of take it in totality rather than just assessing the individual one-on-one matchup. So really interesting there. So Galvin owners would be confident there, and then Whānau owners like myself have to have a think about what the risk reward is of playing him. He's probably good for 40 plus, which is probably pretty solid. I've got some good upside this weekend, so maybe I do need to sit someone like Terrell May and go for a Whānau there instead and just guarantee myself the points rather than the minutes at least. The neutral matchups are for the right centre, right winger, and lock, but you see it drops into neutral. There's no tough or poor, so it just goes to show even some Tigers players have some credibility in this matchup. It should be pretty good for SuperCoach unless the weather gets in the way. But I am leaning more Warriors than Tigers. Next game, and just quickly on that, Mitch Barnett in that last one is a VC option for sure, the way he's rolling. Eels Storm, starting with the Eels, it's pretty grim. They have just two good matchups for the lock, Ryan Madison, and the right winger. Then it gets pretty dire. The right 2RF, left 2RF are neutral. The hook is neutral. The right half, I believe, Dylan Brown, neutral. Then it's just bad. It's right centre bad, left half bad. Everything else is pretty bad and poor for the Eels. So avoiding your fringe Eel starters would probably be my advice, especially after we saw the Roosters struggle against the Storm. For the Storm, gun matchup, left centre, left half, left winger, left 2RF. So you're firing up that full left side. Even if Munster comes in, I would be backing that. Right wing is an elite matchup. Lock, great matchup. Interestingly, fullback and front row is the bad matchups, but I'm starting my Storm fullback here 100%. I'm not bothered by that. Storm have a massive discrepancy. Both teams are dominant down their right. Yeah, all systems go on your Storm boys, and be cautious with your Eels players. Game 3. Broncos starting off here. We've got gun matchups for the front rowers and the right centre, which is Stag. So back Stags in if you are one of those people. I didn't look at that when I was commenting earlier in the Discord, so apologies if I marched you away from Katoni Stags. I didn't see this matchup, or at least I didn't remember it when I did the analysis earlier. Lock, elite matchup. Left 2RF, great matchup. Right winger, great matchup too. So like the right edge here, you can see, and even the left edge pops up. But then the left half, bad matchup, and left centre, poor matchup does make things interesting. And the fullback, Reece Walsh, has a tough matchup. Overall, the Broncos do have the discrepancy though, and they're dominant in the middle. Bulldogs are also dominant in the middle. Their matchups look like an elite matchup for the hooker, great matchup for lock, left winger, and right 2RF. Good matchup for the left half, neutral matchup for the left 2RF, bad matchup for the fullback, bad matchup for the right winger, bad matchup for the right centre, but I'm starting my Jacob Carrazes in that instance. I don't care about his matchup. He's matchup proof to an extent. Yeah, in this one, look, I'd still probably play Reece Walsh. I did mention, I think last night, the Bulldogs, they've slipped a little bit in the way they are stingy in SuperCoach. They have taken a little step back in there, how bullish they've been, but I would, be cautious, but I would play someone like Reece Walsh 100%, even though it says tough matchup. What else there? There's nothing else there that jumps out to me. I think you're pretty confident to play your Broncos the way what we saw from them last week. But Payne Haas presents as a possible VC if you had him with the gun matchup there. And that smaller Bulldogs pack is going to potentially give up a little bit of offloads to those Broncos guys, potentially. Game 4 is Cowboys Sharks. The Cowboys have an elite matchup for their lock, good matchup for their left half and left centre, front row and neutral matchup, hooker poor matchup, right winger, right half and right 2RF, all bad for the Cowboys. So right winger, right half, right 2RF, all bad matchups. Massive dominant discrepancy in favour of the Sharks, who've been really good defensively and scoring okay. The Cowboys are dominant in the middle left. The Sharks are the opposite, and they are dominant in their right edge. So their matchups look like for the Sharks, great matchup right 2RF, great matchup right winger, great matchup right half. Neutral matchup forwards and the left half, bad matchups for the hooker, the left 2RF, which is Wilton, and the left winger has a tough matchup, which is Ronaldo Mulatalo, but I am firing my Sharks up. I'm not reading too much into the bad matchups here. I think the Sharks off a bye, pretty motivated. I think they're going to go okay. That's my take there. For the Roosters-Eagles game, let's start with the Roosters. They have a gun matchup for the lock and gun matchup for the right 2RF. Hooker, great matchup. Right centre, great matchup. None of those are that interesting to me, except the gun matchup for Connor Watson is probably more up people's alley when it comes to, what they're considering for maybe a late VC on a Saturday night. Left 2RF, good matchup for Angus Crichton. Right winger, neutral matchup, but it's all systems go for the right winger every single time he's playing. Dom Young. Left winger, bad matchup. Left centre, tough matchup. And the front row is tough matchups. Discrepancies, in favour of the Roosters. Not minorly, but it's in favour enough. Dominant for the Roosters are right and are dominant down their right and in the middle. Seagulls are also dominant down their right. Seagulls matchups look like left to RF elite matchup, great matchup right centre, neutral matchup left winger, poor matchup lock, poor matchup right to RF, poor matchup right winger, bad matchup for Tommy Turbo, left half tough matchup, and left centre tough matchup. So that middle to sort of middle and right edge defense of the Roosters impacting the left and the middle of the Manly side. So look, I'm still keen to lean on Tommy. Does this make him a risky Saturday night captaincy? Probably. The Roosters probably not going to give him what he requires in terms of time and space, but yeah, maybe he's a VC if you've got Tommy on Saturday night. If you want to back him in and you want to play Cleary in the next game as your captain, that's something you could definitely do, knowing the risk associated. Interestingly, Teddy doesn't pop up either way on there, but I will tell you he has probably what I'd consider a neutral matchup again this weekend. I like him way more this weekend than I did against the Storm. He won't be my captain, but confident. If you didn't have a better choice, I'd be confident he'll do much better than last week. But whereas Tommy has an actual really bad matchup, but we'll see how that pans out. Moving on to the next one. Don't know what else, if there's anything else I need to mention there. Yeah, Brooksy, be careful. Good time to sell him high, for example, after last week. He's got a tough one here. Yeah, nothing else really. I think Garrick as a right centre having a great matchup is interesting. Whether that converts, I'll be curious, but he's just been so good, Garrick, this year that, you're pretty confident in what you're doing there. Next game that I mentioned, Dragons-Panthers. Let's start with the Dragons. Great matchups for their left centre, fullback, and left winger. Good matchup for the hooker. Left 2RF has a neutral matchup and a poor matchup for the left half. It gets dire here. Bad matchup for the right 2RF, the lock. Tough matchup for the right half, Benny Hunt. Panthers have a pretty significant discrepancy. They should run riot here from SuperCoach perspective. Both teams are dominant down their left, as we know. And I would we don't know that because at the start of the year, Dragons were all right edge. So it's interesting it swung a little bit during Origin where that left edge with Tuipolotu and Sully and RFM have scored a lot of their SuperCoach points. So just bear that in mind that I expect that to shift a bit back now that Benny Hunt and Lomax are back on deck to bring the season home. For the Panthers, gun matchup for the fullback, Dane Laurie. So as we spoke about Dane Laurie being a free agency and waiver pickup, he is definitely a go this weekend. I think you respect the gun matchup on Dane Laurie. By all means, he could shit the bed, but to play him in your 5'8" and have the ceiling that we saw on the weekend, that is tasty, and that is what we're all about when it comes to making matchup plays in times of need. So I'm going to fire him up. It's tough because I do have really good 5'8" depth, which is weird to say probably for the first time ever, but I just have landed in a situation where I have good depth there. But Laurie at fullback, I like the work rate, even though that doesn't convey to a ton of base. I think he's still sub 30 in base as a fullback, but the work rate is what leads to hands on the ball and opportunities, and he's got the fitness to do it for 80. So I like how he's up and around the ball. Saw some good attacking runs from Laurie. Mentioned this yesterday, and he can create as well. So we saw some try assists. So yeah, love Laurie, and the matchup is there. Elite matchup for Tungo, which is Isaac. He's been pretty depressing, but I took the gamble as a cash down option in fantasy for Tungo, and I'm going to have to play him this weekend off the back of this information because that's tight. That's a tidy opportunity with Cleary now second week back. Going to hopefully provide him some ball. Right to RF also has a great matchup, so we see the right half as well. Nathan Cleary, great matchup. The forwards, great matchup. What that tells me, that right edge should be humming. The winger doesn't make an appearance here, but that does not bother me. I'm really keen to play Cleary and get around that right edge, given the sort of stack we see here of right names. The other side of the field is completely different, though. Bad matchup for left centre, bad matchup for left half, and bad matchup for left winger. So bear that in mind for your Panthers, boys. I am absolutely starting Brian To'o, and I'll most likely start Casey McLean just based on the Panthers potentially rolling. I could be totally wrong. One thing, if you want to probably overthink it, which is something I definitely do myself, and which is why I hold myself accountable to overthinking, and it trains me to give clean advice rather than getting too hung up, but I try to look at all angles, is Shane Flanagan is one of the better coaches we've seen in terms of getting his guys steely in defense and focus in defense. I just wonder if Flanagan gets the boys up defensively for this. which doesn't stop me from playing Brian To'o, but I don't know if this will be a complete bloodbath. It could be. I'd say it's more likely to be a bloodbath than not, but there is a world where Flanagan has the boys up and about post-Origin, post the bye, and they're a little more staunch. So my To'o's getting played, but Casey McLean, who I grabbed as well, I may sit on Casey McLean for this weekend and just observe him once more. It's him or Ero. It's a really tough spot. They're both shown they can base 50 plus. Probably go Ero for a bit of diversity, given I've got Laurie, To'o, and Cleary. But God, it's tempting to pump in as many Panthers as you can while they're showing the form they showed last week. Moving on, though, I've spent way too long in this game, as is my want with Panthers discussions. Even though I'm not, I'm a Queenslander, I just enjoy watching them play football. Game 7, Dolphins-Titans. Dolphins left to RF, great matchup. Left half, great matchup. Fullback, the Hammer, great matchup. So if you're considering him in classic or fantasy, that is a good sign that he's looking brilliant. I think he's getting to a realm of, is he possibly matchup proof given how fast he is and how much he sniffs around the ball. He can play both sides. That's something really interesting. He is better at sweeping left, I should say, as someone who's watched him closely this year as an owner. But yeah, it's interesting. So Hammer, great matchup. Right centre, left centre, good matchups. It's neutral for the lock. It gets pretty dire for the left winger, the hooker, who have bad matchups, and the right winger, who has a tough matchup for the Finns, which is a Sarko. So be wary there. Titans, gun matchups for the right half and the left winger. So AKP. Elite matchup for right to RF, which should be Beau Fermor. Right winger, great matchup. Hooker, great matchup. Good matchup for the front rowers. Tough matchup for the right centre. Poor matchup for David Fafita on the left, so probably not a captaincy option on Fafita. Neutral matchup for the left centre. Massive discrepancy in favour of the Titans because they've actually been defending kind of well and scoring a lot in SuperCoach. Both teams are dominant down their left, so really weird one here. Couldn't tell you which way this is going to go at all. All I know is I'm really keen to play Hammer, and if I had Titans, I'd be really keen to play them too, but I don't. So yeah, do what you will with this one. Final game of the round is Raiders-Rabbitohs. For the Raiders, the right winger and the front rowers have elite matchups. The hooker, great matchup, which is Starling, who is a bona fide waiver and play this weekend for sure. Great matchup for the left centre. Great matchup for the left winger, which is Xavier Savage, I believe. Or is he gone to the right? Just correct me if I'm wrong. I could be wrong there. Just monitor your wingers there. But both wingers have elite and good. So yeah, they're both playable if you're keen as a Raiders owner. Right half, bad matchup, but I'm not worried about that for Fogarty as much. Left to RF, bad matchup. Right to RF, tough matchup for the Raiders. Not overly bothered, as I don't own any Raiders, but I'd just be playing the ones that are going to play well and typically do. They're dominant in the middle because they're boring. Rabbitohs are balanced because they're balanced. The Rabbitohs matchups, gun matchup for Cookie. Front rowers have elite matchups. Left to RF and left half have great matchups. Left centre has a great matchup too, so that left edge should be going pretty well, which I like as a Johnston pickup, even though he's not listed here. He should benefit from those inside him having sort of that upside in their matchups. The lock and the right winger and the right to RF all have tough matchups for the Bunnies, but you're starting the guys that you're going to rely on anyway. And this one, I don't think that's too groundbreaking. There's no sort of pickups there that jump out at me. So that's that one. I'm going to pull up the questions really quickly because there is some stuff on matchups while I've got the screens open. So first question here, I believe it was probably wanting to be answered last night, but I didn't get to it because I recorded before I saw the question. But this person says, needing a plug for CTW this week to stay in touch with top 6. I'm liking the Eels v Storm matchup. Who has a matchup out of Anderson left winger and Warbrick right winger? To help decide who I should waiver for. So my friend, it is identical. They both have really gun matchups. Yeah, look, if you wanted to know a little more, the left centre has the best of the best for the Storm, according to what I've got here in front of me. So that could mean that the man inside him benefits giving the Grant Anderson the edge, which I think is Jack Howarth. But you really can't go wrong because on your right side, you've got Jerome Hughes and Katoa creating. So, mate, I'd be preferring Anderson because he just seems to create even a bit more. He just seems like a more likely type. But if you end up with Warbrick, no complaints, mate. But yeah, good luck. This is another one. Also a question probably more suited to matchups pod. Who do VC see out of Wishart, assuming he starts, whichever Storm winger, Karaz or Lomax? Yeah, look, Wishy has a really strong matchup for the Storm, so I don't mind a VC on him. It's probably that Anderson's more likely to score if he's healthy, but given his health, be careful, he might come off potentially. So just don't risk the Anderson. Yeah, VC on Wishy makes sense. Karaz doesn't have a good matchup. I don't love that for him. And then your other option was Lomax. He's the right winger or the right center. I don't like that either. I'd be going Wishart probably just based on the data there against the Eels. He could run riot. Yeah, Wishart or Anderson. I wouldn't go Warbrick. I'd put Karaz above Lomax just because it's too late in the round for a VC. Oh, you've said VCC, sorry. Yeah, I'd go Wishart, VC probably, or Anderson, and then I would see... Mate, even against Penrith, even though he doesn't have the matchup, if it was a C and you had to wait to that point, I would see Lomax. At least he goal kicks, and he seems to be just super locked in, super competitive after Origin. He's had a break, so yeah, I just see Lomax out of him and Karaz, but that's really up to you. I feel weird giving advice there because it's such tough options, but what I would do is just go Wishy and hope for the best, or Anderson depending on your mood, and then I'd flip a coin between Karaz or Lomax. Like Karaz, less stingy opposition, but has really good base. Lomax has good base and goal kick, so if he's going to be a captain, at least if he scores a try and kicks a few goals, you're going to get something out of that. So yeah, I'd do that. The next question is Milne v Sammy v McLean. Mate, it's McLean for me. I grabbed him myself. I just think you get, someone said in the Discord today, rule number 1, pick up Penrith backline players. I think it's as simple as that. But for the run home, look, both the Titans and the Rabbits are trending in the right direction. I probably put Milne just a step above Sammy. As much as I don't like Milne, he does have a little more durability than Sammy and probably more potent chance of try assists to Johnson on that left edge. But it's pretty gross, mate. I'd have McLean, even though he's way less proven. I'd just go Panthers and work back from there. That's the way I do things, and it sort of works for me. Next question, 10-team, 23-26 finals. Good to hear, mate. Time to sell high on Terrell. Bench now. JD Hovich coming back soon. Other FRFs are JDB and Finu. Yeah, look, I don't know. His benching doesn't reflect his minutes, so I'm not too bothered by the benching, but you're absolutely right. If you can sell him, you do it 100%. For me, I'm not going to be able to sell him. I'll probably have to drop him, but I'm waiting until that buy round. So I basically freeze anyone else out from getting him who's my competition. If they want to run the gauntlet with him, they can. The other Fs are great. So looking at maybe, if you can get, Tungo or Cobbo, 100%. I'd go Tungo because he doesn't have a bye in the finals. I don't want to navigate around 24 bye for the Broncos, but I don't think you can go wrong with either of those gets. If you just have to ask the owners and see which one comes to the table for the discussion. But if you can sell high on Terrell, absolutely do it, mate. He's great, but even when JWH is out, he didn't get the minutes last week, so it tells me what we need to know. So that's it for questions. That does it for the potty as well. I don't think there's anything else to discuss. Just as always, I'd just like to finish on a thanks if you've watched this. Please chuck it a like, a comment. Even if the comment says thanks, mate, I don't mind. It just definitely helps. Just helps get this video to the eyes and ears of people who are browsing YouTube looking for anything NRL SuperCoach fantasy related. I'm sure it helps in that capacity. So if you've got the time, please do that. Any other questions, let me know. I did have an issue with my Twitter. I just want to say that I had, after I played with some settings, I had accidentally turned off DMs from everyone. I've opened DMs back up. So if you're watching this and you didn't want to comment, but now you can visit my Twitter, which will be somewhere in my description or at the end of the video or whatever. And you can DM me asking for an invite to the Discord. Now is the time to lean on all of the great SuperCoach minds in our community. So please do that. We'll talk soon. Good luck on the weekend. Any other analysis I do or whatever, I'll post, but I've been doing a little bit of calculation stuff in the Discord for the guys. You're more than welcome to join there and request some stuff. Please keep it simple. 3 players is the best way to do it. Asking for 6, 7 guys, it does take me a bit of time. It's hard. But yeah, good luck this weekend. Enjoy, play hard. My last tip is it's just as important to snipe your opposition's potential pickups or counters to their injuries or restings as it is to get your own. You'd be surprised, even if you pick them up and drop them just to freeze them out for waivers. Really strong tactic, and it's 100% required. So don't just log off because your team's set and pretty. Keep an eye on who you can snipe and shoot the kneecaps out of your opponents. It's really important. Talk soon. Take care.